It's the mythical subway train. It goes anywhere through the rain. This is so hard to rhyme, so I'm gonna start the video. It's time. Alright, class, I'm your teacher, Mr. Bedazzle Bedazzle, and now we're gonna talk about dramatic stuff.
Wow, sounds so exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about how the French and Britain started a war. But first, you gotta know there's a little thing called capitalism. It basically means if trade equals money, and money equals power, and power means you're greater than everybody else, that's the key, trade is the answer. So, the 13 colonies, which were founded a couple years back, it's like,
Hey, we live there in the 13 colonies. Yeah, so excited.
yeah, please be quiet. I'm trying to teach a lesson. Trade. What you got to do is anywhere on this map, you can go from England to the 13 colonies to the West Indies or West Africa. But this is called a triangle of trade because it's in a triangle. They did wood, they did animal skins and hides, but they mainly did whales to trade because I think oil. Then they also traded fish, which is delicious. And they got the clams and oysters, which was also great for trading. But down south, they did trade all of that, but what they mainly traded was very sad. They traded slaves that they got from the west of Africa. And that's pretty much trade in a nutshell. Or triangle. Oh, bad puns. They're so funny. Anywho, in the New World, in the 1700s, there were 250,000 people living there. By the 1775s, there were 2,500,000 people living there. But then the slave labor in 1700s was 28,000, and then by 1775 it was 500,000. And this meant large families which had 8 kids, which were 20% more likely to survive to adulthood, which is pretty darn impressive compared to England. But there's this thing called backcountry. It's in the back of the country where it's super rocky, and not a lot of people live there. This is west of the Tidewater, which is basically the complete opposite. There's flat land, and it's next to the seacoast, so it makes trading easier, and you're overcrowded with a bunch of other people. Yeah. Government. This was also a big topic in the New World for the 13 colonies. The government. There were charter colonies where the governor would pick a representative approved by the Britain, and then there were priority colonies where the prioritaries of the higher class would choose a governor, and the royal colonies, the king would choose a representative. And, well, to vote, you had to be a white dude who owned land, which is still pretty darn unfair. But there was this place called the Ohio River Valley that the British and the French wanted. So, the governor, Robert Dinwiddie, told George Washington in 1753 to march up to the French and be like, yo, we're taking it. But the French yelled at him instead, and the French told him that it was their absolute design to take possession of the Ohio River Valley, and by God, they would do it. Now, the governor sent George Washington with 150 guys up back to the French to yell at them again, and this time they did. They all started yelling at each other. It was great, and now there's a ton of arguing. So George Washington, being the genius he am, was like, alright guys, I get a plan. We're going to hide out. One of the French scouting party comes by. We're going to attack them. And yeah, that is exactly what they did. When the French came by, they jumped down from their hiding spots. So this wasn't really a battle, not necessarily. It was more like a little fight, but it still ended pretty gory with one of George's Native American friends. He took a battle axe and killed the scout leader. So now George Washington came back to Fort Decays, and they were super mad at him, so he built this fort called Fort Necessity for defense, even though it's 3 logs. So they waited day, and then they waited night, until the French finally popped up, and, well, they used their tactics of guerrilla warfare, and, well, George Washington, he had to surrender, with about lots of his troops dying. And this guy was seen as a hero for standing up to the big bullies of the war playground. Good job, George. And, well, George got himself into pretty big trouble, too. With war quite literally right over the horizon, and the French already having allies with the natives, George and the British were left alone. So sad. No allies except a little bit, and under the command and leadership of General Braddock, he had a plan. He said, us British, we're going to go back up to Fort Duquesne and attack them the way we always do. But when they were in the woods, they got guerrilla warfare ambushed again. And not surprisingly, Braddock got shot, so they all had to drag him through the woods for a couple of days, and I'm pretty sure they ran over a lot of rocks, probably some logs too, which had to be really hard on a old man's back. And, probably cactus here and there. But after a couple days, they laid Braddock down by the side of a tree, and he died. Is so depressing. Then when George held up his jacket, he realized there were 4 bullet holes, so he never got shot.
Holy cow! George didn't get shot, even though there were bullet holes?
Yeah, it's dramatic, but, physics has an answer. Yeah. So in 1756 to 1763, the war is on. Jeffrey Amherst, which was the dude who won the Battle of Louisbourg, which is some other one I totally forget. But James Wolfe, this dude, he was the ending piece to this whole puzzle. He was gonna win the war. So his plan was to go straight to Quebec. And what they're going to do is they're going to sneak along the river in the night, pop up near it with all their ships near the mountains where it's super dark and you can't see them. All the British troops are going to climb up the mountains, and once they got there, they realized the French were already there on a battlefield playing war. And that's when the British were like, this is our game. We can win. So in 15 minutes, they kill the French, which is really cool. And as you would expect, Wolfe dies. And the French were left with practically nothing except half a sliver of the West Indies.
Wow, that's such an exciting story. I'm so happy we're all here.
Yeah, unfortunately.